Let's welcome Dr. Anderson.
Thank you. How many of you believe we have a healthcare crisis? We do, right? I would like to show you a brief preview of a film called Escape Fire. Has anyone heard of that film or watched it? Escape Fire? I'm going to show it to you. We're going to talk about how did we get into this mess and what are we going to do about it. Take a look.
The American healthcare system is badly broken.
The present system doesn't work, and it's going to take us down. We need a whole new kind of medicine.
We're in the grip of a very big industry, and it doesn't want to stop making money.
If I spend 5 minutes with you and then put in one of these stents, I probably get paid $1,500. For me to spend 45 minutes with a patient to try to figure out what their true problem is, probably get paid $15. It's a completely irrational system.
We don't have a healthcare system in this country. We have a disease management system.
We're spending almost twice as much in America as any other country on earth, but our lifespan isn't even in the top 20.
30,000 Medicare recipients die each year from care they didn't need. That's the equivalent of a jumbo jet crashing every single week. If the aviation industry killed as many people, we'd be up in arms.
The administration pays you based on how many patients you see. All right, who's next? If you try and buck the system, someone says, what can we do to get your productivity up? I'm not interested in getting my productivity up. I'm interested in helping patients.
We're seeing the military just being a microcosm of the problem society's having.
Soldiers' use of prescription drugs has tripled in the past 5 years.
This medications I was on.
Only by accepting that the American healthcare system is badly broken will we be able to seek out the escape fires, the potential solutions. There are answers.
One company has figured out how to lower healthcare costs by more than 40%.
We provide incentives for people to engage in healthier behaviors.
The Army Surgeon General directed that we establish the Pain Management Task Force to take a look at alternatives to narcotics.
I was skeptical, so skeptical.
I've gotten a lot of inspiration, a different perspective. There's a different way of doing things that is possible.
If I think about what healthcare could be like, it would have a lot more care in it.
The healthcare system is unsustainable. We're really mortgaging the future. Not just the health of healthcare, we're talking about the health of the nation.
Pretty sobering, isn't it? We're going to spend the next few minutes talking about how did we get into this mess, what is contributing to the healthcare crisis, but more importantly, what I want to present tonight is how are we going to get out of this? What is the solution? Is this too loud? Can you guys hear okay, or is it too loud? Okay, great. So what do you think some of the contributing factors are to the healthcare crisis we have? Just shout out some ideas. Fast food. Diet, exercise, fast food. You guys are all over it.
Sugar addiction.
Sugar addiction, pharmaceutical companies. Cindy, excellent. You said sugar addiction?
Didn't say anything.
Oh, I'm sorry. You're way back in the corner here, Ray.
Hearing sensitive here, so.
Okay. Is it okay?
You can lower it a little bit.
Okay.
Please.
We'll lower it a little bit.
Everybody else can hear.
Okay. Yeah, all those things. What about your insurance? Does insurance have anything to do with this situation? Can you turn it down just a little bit? Thank you. Insurance, everything, that's probably too far down, right there. Is that good? Okay, thank you guys. All right. What does insurance get you? What does health insurance get you? It's tough to say, right?
Bills.
It gets you a lot of bills. Jinx, exactly. Let me put it a different way. What do you get for fire insurance? You don't get anything unless there's a fire, right? What about life insurance? Nothing happens unless you lose your life. Health insurance isn't really for health, is it? It's for illness. We've been told that if we have insurance, that our insurance is going to keep us well. How well is that working for you guys? Is it working for you? Not so well. You already heard that we spend more money on healthcare in this country than any other country in the world. This year now, it's estimated it'll be over $10,000 per man, woman, and child in this country, and yet we're about number 50 in life expectancy and health. That doesn't make sense, does it? So, what is that insurance actually paying for?
It's paying for you when you're ill, it pays your bills.
Exactly, good, Keener. It pays for your bills when you're ill, but it does not help you get well, does it? Becky?
Mine also pays for my exercise though.
Oh, fantastic.
So when I go to the natatorium, my program pays for that.
Good. And ideally, eventually, I hope I'm starting a crusade where those kinds of things will be paid for. But I'm going to show you a slide. This is taken from the fine print in Medicare regulations, and you might find this shocking, but this is an actual verbatim quote. Care that seeks to prevent disease, promote health, and prolong and enhance the quality of life is not considered medically necessary. Can you believe that? Do you guys want quality of life? Absolutely. Absolutely. So our insurance pays for when we're sick. If you're lucky, may pay for some things to keep you healthy. But if you're going to reclaim and maintain your health, we're going to have some other answers here, right? That's one of the problems. We're not going to go over all the problems, but there's another one I want to touch on tonight that I don't think I've heard mentioned yet. What else is contributing to some of the problems with our healthcare system? It was mentioned in the film.
Drugs.
Drugs. Steve, you're absolutely all over that. We're going to talk about the pharmaceutical industry. One of my patients, though, that I had prior to starting this practice told me when he was struggling to pay for insurance for his family of 4, he said, it's a business. It's about money, not health. And that was a quote from my patient, Ted. But the pharmaceutical industry has the health care of this nation by the throat. I'm going to give you a few numbers, and numbers can get boring, but to put it in perspective, how much do you think the gun lobby spends in Congress lobbying for their rights? I'm not saying anything about gun rights. This is just for illustration. Anybody know? Millions. About 10 million is an estimate. How much do you think the pharmaceutical industry spends lobbying for their rights? Any guesses?
Billion.
25 million. Maybe it may get close to $1 billion soon, but about 3 times more than the gun lobby, and we all know how much people care about that. Why did they spend so much money trying to protect their rights? It's because 25 million is a drop in the bucket in their profits. I'm going to talk for just a moment about the top selling drugs in the country right now. The number 1 drug in this country is called Humira. Humira is what we call a biologic drug. It's used for autoimmune disease. And last year, sales of Humira alone topped over $18 billion. 6 out of the 8 top drugs that are prescribed are all in that family. Why do you suppose that's the case? And I bet you've seen ads for that in a magazine or on TV. You have, right, Nancy? Yeah. Do you know why those are the top selling drugs right now? Because autoimmune disease is an epidemic. Has anyone heard of autoimmune disease? Yes. Yeah. Autoimmune disease is when your immune system becomes confused and starts attacking parts of your body and destroying it. Your quality of life and your life expectancy and your ability to live your purpose all goes down. 6 out of the 8 top selling drugs are in that category, and they're treating what?
Inflammation, maybe? I don't know.
Steve, you are really good. Inflammation is a symptom, but is that the cause of the autoimmune disease? No, these drugs are treating symptoms, not the cause. They're not fixing the problem. That's not to say that they don't have a place, and if you're on one, I'm certainly not here tonight to tell you that you should get off it or that it's bad. But I am saying let's look at the deeper root cause and let's look at the picture. So, 85% of all medical procedures and surgeries are scientifically unproven. That was published in the British Medical Journal. And 90% of all diseases prevalent today are not treatable with orthodox medical procedures. Let me tell you what our current medical system is good for, and you mentioned it already, Keener, and that is they're good at taking care of us when we're sick, when we hit the end of the road, when we have a disaster or a crisis, right? But our current medical system was never designed to take care of us when we're well or to keep us well. If we're going to do that, we have to have a different solution. So what right do I have to tell you guys this stuff? I'd like to tell you a little bit more about me than what you read on my bio already. You know that I practiced traditional family medicine for the last 20 years. In that model, and I was trained at a very good institution, I learned how to name the symptoms that you might have. We call that a disease, and we have a drug to treat it. But I never saw people really getting well. When's the last time your doctor took you off medication? If you're put on a blood pressure medicine or a cholesterol medicine or diabetes, how long do you think you'll be on it? The rest of your life. Cindy?
My doctor, she had me taking Forteo shots every day. My joints swelled up so bad I could hardly walk. I couldn't pick my grandkids up. She said, please don't take that.
Yeah, that's a great point, Cindy. A lot of times the things that we're taking to treat a problem end up creating other problems, right? I'd like to tell you a little bit about my patient, Jo. I started seeing her about 14 years ago, and at that time, she didn't have any health problems. She hadn't seen a doctor for years. She started off with high cholesterol, and as I had been trained, I put her on a cholesterol medicine. One of the side effects of cholesterol medications can be increased risk for, anyone know? Diabetes, not to mention body aches and fatigue and memory problems and heartburn. Well, Jo developed, guess what? Diabetes. And then we treated her diabetes with another medication, and that medication, many of you may have been familiar with, called metformin, caused more side effects, and one of the most common side effects of metformin is nerve damage. Has anyone heard of neuropathy? Yes, and so I call it the medication slide.
How did you know that the metformin caused the neuropathy and it wasn't because of the diabetes?
Well, that is an excellent question, and one I've asked myself, Keener. Diabetes, we know, can cause nerve damage and neuropathy, but many studies have shown that that's a known side effect. Now, which one caused it is hard to say, but when you have both problems, we know that it could be contributing. So I found that after 20 years, I wasn't helping people truly reclaim their health. I was just managing their disease, like that film said. And I discovered something called functional medicine, and I'm going to tell you more about that as we get into the information on hormones and stress. But I found that with functional medicine, we could really get to the root cause, and we could really help people reclaim their health. And that's what I'm here to tell you about tonight. I'd like to ask your permission, if it's okay with you guys, to speak the truth as I know it, based on my training, on my experience, and on my research. It may not be what you've been used to hearing. Is that okay with you guys? Yeah. Good. I'm glad. And I'm here because I'm not at home with my family tonight. I'm here speaking to you, giving you dinner, because I have a passion for sharing this message that it's possible for you to reclaim your health and your life. It's possible to live an abundant life, and you don't have to be dependent on medication or your doctor to do it. And I would like to show you how that's possible tonight. I'm not here to speak as your own doctor or give you specific medical advice tonight. And I'm not here by any means to put down any of your doctors or the traditional medical system, which I was part of for many, many years, and I still work with. In conjunction. There's absolutely a place for it and a time for it. But the place and time for you to reclaim your health is right now, tonight, and that's what I want to tell you about. So it's easy to point the finger and talk about the system. That's a big part of the problem, right? But what about us? Do we have anything to do with our health? We do. So we have to take some responsibility. But to take responsibility, you need correct information. Part of the reason that we have a healthcare crisis is you've been given wrong information. And I'm going to talk a little bit tonight about some hormone issues, but exercise is an information area that sometimes is confused. How many people have tried to lose weight by exercising? Almost everyone. And 98% of people who try to lose weight gain it back because they haven't really changed their lifestyle patterns. Exercise has a place. How many of you have had one of these machines? Anyone? No. There used to be one of these down at the pawn shop on 9th Street. Why do you suppose it was there?
Because it works.
It didn't work.
What is it?
It's an ab machine, and you get on it and you bend back and forth, and you're supposed to get rid of belly
Do that
fat.
on the floor?
You could maybe do it on the floor. Here's the bad news about exercise. You can't out-exercise a bad diet. Do you guys want to know how long it takes on a treadmill to burn off 2 Oreo cookies? Oh, I love Oreo cookies. You don't want to know? I won't tell you.
Yes.
45 minutes. You'd have to spend 45 minutes on a treadmill to burn off those calories. So it's not about the number of calories or the exercise you're doing. It's about nourishing and healing our bodies. That's what we talk about. Here's some more information that's incorrect. The number 1 prescribed medication, not the top selling, but number 1 prescribed medication is called Crestor. It used to be Lipitor. They're both used for cholesterol. Do you know why it switched?
Cheaper.
Lipitor went off patent, so it got cheap. Crestor is still on patent, so it's now number 1 prescribed. That's it. Now, how many people have heard that heart disease is caused by high cholesterol? We've been taught that. I taught that for many years. It may be a contributing factor, but the underlying factor is actually inflammation. So 90% of people who take a drug like Lipitor or Crestor may not be helped, and in fact may be harmed. And yet it's the number 1 prescribed drug in this country. So you've got to have the right information, and then you've got to have somebody show you how to apply that information, right? You're going to have to take some action. One of our problems is not being proactive. What's the opposite of being proactive?
Retrogressive.
Retrogressive? It's a good one.
Gotta help me, you gotta fix me.
It's reactive, right? We just wait till something happens and then we react. We know that we should exercise, right? Maybe we're doing it like this, right? We take better care of our animals and our pets than we do sometimes of ourselves. Now, I have a dog. I love animals. So I'm not putting down pets. But sometimes we put more effort into what food they eat, getting their vet visits taken care of, even their beds and their collars, than we do into our own care. Right? Right. We have to take action and responsibility for our own health. When we become reactive, we wait until we're sitting in the doctor's office getting the worst news, and then we will say, I'll do anything. Just tell me what I need to do to get better. I'll go to Mexico, I'll go to London, I'll drink black juice, I'll put tar on, whatever it takes, right? Let me tell you what it takes to wait, to be reactive to your health. You remember I told you about Joe, my patient, who developed diabetes, neuropathy. When you have neuropathy, you start to lose sensation. What's one of the things that happens with that?
Balance.
You can lose your balance and fall, but you lose sensation and you can get infected wounds that don't heal, and many diabetics lose limbs. The first thing, though, that happens is you may lose a toe. That can cost about $14,000. Let's say you don't deal with it, and pretty soon you're going to have to lose your foot or your lower leg. How much do you think that'll cost to wait? About double, $28,000 if you wait and deal with that. If you continue to not deal with your diabetes, Maybe you develop heart disease now as a complication. If you have open heart surgery, how much do you think that's going to cost?
$400,000.
Maybe. Estimates are anywhere from 100 to 200 or so thousand to take care of that problem. But if we just become proactive and take action now, none of that would even be necessary, right? I want to tell you about one more complication of diabetes that you may or may not have heard of. Has anyone heard of type 3 diabetes? Well, type 3 diabetes is a term that's now used to describe one type of Alzheimer's or dementia. And we know that having elevated blood sugar and uncontrolled diabetes over years can lead to damage and dementia of the brain. And so, Jo was one of the sweetest patients I ever took care of. She was married to her husband for over 70 years. And the last 5 years that I took care of her, she developed dementia. She could no longer recognize her husband. She tried to jump out of the car when he would be taking her home. She would attack him, and he came in with his arm just torn up. And she eventually had to be placed in a care home because he could not take care of her. She didn't recognize him. She didn't recognize her children. That's the biggest price that we can pay. We also have to pay for that care home. How much do you think being in an assisted living care home costs? They say $6,000 to $8,000 a month?
Yeah.
Something like that? Yeah. So, some of you may be here tonight because you're at the end of your rope, looking for any hope, any answer that you can find. Some of you may be here because you know that you could feel better, you're just not sure where to start or how to do it. Some of you are here, that's my cue to take a drink. You know how many of you drink enough water? Some of you maybe came because someone invited you to come with or said, you know, they want you to come. I don't know why. You don't even know what you're here for, what I'm going to talk about. Thank you for coming, Judy. Thank you guys for being here tonight. I hope I'm going to give you valuable information, and no matter why you came, you're going to walk out of here with some answers or inspiration to take better care of yourself. You might be afraid I'm going to try to sell you something tonight. Maybe. If you call an opportunity to reclaim your health selling you something, then yes. And I'm very glad to tell you I'm here to sell you an opportunity. I'm here to offer you an opportunity to learn how to better take care of you and reclaim your own health. So if you call that selling, yes. So you can rest at ease that that's what I'm here for and why I'm here. So I want to talk about what are we going to have to do to get out of this mess. We know that we're going to have to be proactive. I want to tell you about somebody who was proactive in his health and what difference that made for him. Anyone recognize this gentleman? Jack LaLanne and his wife, I think her name was Betty. Anyone know? He was not always a specimen like this. He started out in grade school and middle school as a very unhealthy person. In fact, he became so ill that by middle school, he actually missed 6 months of school. He couldn't even attend school. His mother took him to a lecture, similar to this one perhaps, by Dr. Paul Bragg, who was an early pioneer of health and nutrition. And Jack LaLanne was inspired to take action, and by his own admission, he was a junk food addict and a sugaraholic. And he started changing how he was eating. His health started improving. And then he learned about exercise and fitness. And he opened the first gym in this country. And people criticized and ridiculed him because he was opening a gym when, why would that be necessary? And yet, we all now have gym memberships and think nothing of it, right? Jack lived vibrantly and as a clear mentor, meaning living what he preached well into his 90s, and he looked like this until the day he died. So I want to ask, do you want to live until the day you die? That's what I want, right? I'd like to tell you, how many of you, let me ask you a question, how many of you believe we have purpose? Are we here for a purpose? Absolutely, we all are, right? Now, you don't have to raise your hand, but I'm going to ask you, how many of you are actually fulfilling or on track to fulfill your purpose? That's harder to answer, isn't it? Can you do that if you're just forcing yourself through every day? If you're struggling and pushing through? No. I want to tell you about one of my mentors, personal mentor of mine who's helped inspire me on the path that I'm on. His name was Les. And Les was a pioneer and an adventurer. He loved adventure. He loved travel and exploration. He was a pastor and he felt called to serve in the ministry. That career was very stressful, and stress started taking a toll on his health. Les suffered from chronic headaches and neck pain. He became so incapacitated by that he would miss days of work at a time, not able to work, and he eventually had to take a medical retirement, and he was only in his early 50s at that time. You can't work when you're in excruciating pain, when you're drained physically by the energy of dealing with that, right? I see some of you know what I'm talking about. Well, Les retired, but when he medically retired, he kind of lost his purpose of serving other people. And so he got an invitation to go to Papua New Guinea as a mission pilot. Les was also a pilot and loved flying. Well, the sense of adventure of going to a third world country that's very undeveloped really appealed to him. And so he went to New Guinea. And he found that it was very challenging and fulfilling, but it was also stressful. Can we move away from stress? No. We can't. It's going to go with us wherever we go. So the stress started to take a toll on him there too, and he started to suffer from some fatigue and a little bit of maybe brain fog. And if you know what that's like when you just can't, things just don't click the way they used to. So on the Friday afternoon, 3 weeks before he was due to return to the United States, he didn't come home from his final flight of the day. Les's motto had been, he would rather live like a lion for a day than like a mouse for a year. And that's what he did. He didn't come home that day, and I lost my dad. That was 14 years ago, and he was only 58. Now, why did he die in a plane crash? There was no mechanical failure. There was no weather. The wing didn't fall off. 75% of accidents are due to pilot error. And I personally believe that he was suffering from a combination of the stress of his job and some hormonal imbalances that caused brain fog, and something happened. If I had known what I know now, I feel like I could have made a difference. And that's what helps spur me on to spread this message to other people. It's not too late for you guys. It's not too late for you, Jerry or Steve or Colleen, to make a difference and take action in your health right now. So that he never got to meet my daughter. He never met my husband. You don't have to do that to your family if you take action on your health right now. So, what is your why? Who do you need your health for? This is who depends on me. This is my husband and my daughter. And when I forget to drink my water or deal with my stress, I'm reminded that this is why I need my help. Who do you need your help for? Your kids? Your grandkids? Your partner? Yourself? So I want to tell you how I can help you find that. We're going to talk briefly, there's so much information tonight, but briefly about how stress affects us. There's 3 kinds of stress. Physical stress is things like accidents, injuries, traumas, even sitting is a physical stress. Chemical stress is related to what? Pollution and the environment. You guys, absolutely, all over. That causes a lot of stress in our body. And then finally, we all are familiar with emotional stress and how that affects us negatively. Stress, one of the primary things that it's going to affect in our bodies is the hormone system. Hormones are chemical messengers that communicate and keep things balanced and regulated in the body. There are over 600 types of hormones that we know of so far, but we're going to just talk about a few tonight. Don't worry, not all 600. We're going to talk a little bit about the hormones that can promote fat storing and fat burning and why belly fat can be so difficult to deal with. So some kinds of hormones are going to promote fat burning or helping get rid of of fat. So if you're low in any of these kind of hormones, you might recognize thyroid up there, testosterone, growth hormone, adrenaline. If those are out of balance on the low side, you're going to have a very difficult time losing weight or burning fat. There's other kinds of hormones that promote fat storage, especially sometimes the belly fat. Some of those hormones include insulin, estrogen, cortisol. You've probably heard of some of those. I'm sorry, I went too quickly there. So that's just a few of the hormones that are involved in regulating our body fat, especially the belly fat. Now, how does that tie into what we eat? I'm going to show you. This is really a good definition of food. Food is defined as that which is eaten to sustain life, provide energy, and promote growth and repair of tissues. Are you eating food like that every day? Becky is.
I had my stomach made smaller.
Okay.
I only have room for the good stuff.
Good, good. But a lot of us don't. And it's because people are fed by the food industry, which pays no attention to health, and treated by the medical industry, which pays no attention to food. Right? We're going to go back to this slide for just a second, and I'm going to talk about a typical breakfast. I call it the SAD breakfast. SAD stands for Standard American Diet. A lot of us eat a SAD diet. So let's say we're going to have some cereal. Tell me a healthy cereal. Cheerios, good for your heart. And with some milk on it. Maybe you're going to have a cup of coffee and some orange juice. Does that sound like a reasonable breakfast?
Sure.
Maybe, maybe not. I've got a difference of opinion. So I'm sorry to burst your bubble. It's not that healthy for you, and I'm going to tell you what it does to your hormones. So first thing is, the coffee is going to spike your cortisol. Is the cortisol fat burning or fat storing? Fat storing. When you drink coffee and your cortisol goes up, it's going to spike your cortisol for up to 12 hours and shut down fat burning. Bad news. Next, orange juice. Got some vitamin C, right? But how much sugar does it have? The same as a can of Coke. And that sugar is going to spike your insulin, which is going to promote more fat storage. The cereal does the same thing, even if it's Cheerios. And the milk. What's in the milk? There is some sugar, yes.
Lactose.
Well, we're
not going to talk about that.
you read my mind there. There's hormones, right? Because where does milk come from? Cows. And not just any cows, but nursing cows, right? So that hormone is going to raise the estrogen levels. So all three of those fat-storing hormones are pegged when you eat that standard American breakfast. So when we take a look at body types, we can get a clue what hormone may be out of balance just by your body shape. So as we go through these, the first one is if you have an estrogen imbalance, you can have that, what I call the pear shape, the real heavy thighs, hips, and bottom. Now this can affect both men and women. Do you know where men can be exposed to too much estrogen? From the environment. From pesticides, fertilizers, plastics, they all drive estrogen levels up. So this is not just a women's problem, it's a men and women problem. Next, if you have an adrenal problem, that's going to affect your cortisol. And you're going to have definitely that belly fat that you just can't get rid of. And all kinds of things are going to affect your adrenal function. If you have a thyroid issue, I better not get off on that sidetrack. I have to. 90% of women who have thyroid problems, do you know that it's actually an autoimmune condition? And if you only treat the thyroid, you'll never actually get better. But if you have a thyroid imbalance, everything's going to slow down. Everything's going to feel heavy and hard and sluggish. And finally, if you have a liver imbalance, or what we call sometimes detoxification problems, you get what we call that classic beer belly. It's called that because it affects the liver, and it's a toxin to the liver. So you can get a clue just from looking at body types what hormones might be out of balance. Now, one of the things we do in functional medicine is that we look at labs, we test, we don't just guess. So I'm going to show you how functional medicine looks at labs differently than maybe what you've looked at before. Has anyone gone to the doctor, had your labs checked, and you say, I don't really feel that good, and your doctor says, well, I don't know why, your labs look great. Yeah? That's happened to you, right? Why is that? You know you don't feel good. Well, this may be one of the reasons. I'm going to tell you. TSH is what we usually check to look at thyroid hormone, one of the things. And there's a reference range. That reference range tells us, are you normal? If you're within the high or the low, you're considered normal. Now, how do you suppose that reference range was established? Anybody know? Taken by measuring TSH levels from a group of people, a broad group of people in the general population, many of whom are not in optimal health. How many people walking around are in optimal health? Not that many, right? So this reference range is based on a population that includes many people who are not in optimal health. An optimal range really should look more like this, and this is what I use when I look at thyroid levels. I look at 1 to 2.5 as a much better range or optimal function. That's the first example. Here's another one. Testosterone. You may have seen the low T syndrome advertised on TV, or get your treatment for that. Well, here's the reference range that we look at, and maybe your result falls in that 250 range. You'd be considered normal, right? But optimal is probably a lot closer to maybe 600 or so. So you may be normal, but you're not anywhere close to optimal. Is that surprising a little bit? Let's give you one final example. This is cortisol, the famous stress hormone and the one probably most connected to belly fat. The tricky part with cortisol is that it doesn't stay the same level all day. It starts higher in the morning and it goes down as the day goes on. But if you check it once in the morning, you're going to see a level and it may look normal. Right there, it's normal. But what if you check throughout the day? And by the way, the best way to check that is not blood tests, but saliva, which indicates the more accurate measurement. What if it looks like this when you check all 4 times during the day? You have a significant adrenal problem here. And until you fix that, you're not going to feel better or lose that belly fat. So that's how we look at labs and why we start with looking for the root cause in functional medicine. So we've gone over a lot of information. How do we put all these pieces of the puzzle together to help you regain your health or help you maintain your health? Because I think some of you have already figured out how to get that health on track. Well, we have to put all these missing pieces together, right? So we've touched briefly on some of these already. We've talked about liver, we've talked about diet, we've talked about exercise, we've talked a little bit about hormones, and it's also important to look at the nervous system. But unless you put these together in the right order and with every piece of the puzzle in there, it's still not going to make sense. It's still not going to work, right? So we have to put these pieces together by looking at the whole picture and looking at the whole person. When I treat people now, I don't just say, well, Bonnie, your blood pressure is too high, so let's put you on a blood pressure medicine. I say, what's going on in your whole life? What's going on in every area of your body, in each system, and how's that interacting with each of the pieces of the puzzle? So we put nutrition in there. That's what we nourish and heal our bodies with. We look at the fitness piece to get the body composition. We look at hormones and we get balance back in places that are out of balance. And then we look at the nervous system, and finally we deal with detox, which is how we get rid of things that are clogging up our system. So how many of you plan to fail? Anybody? How many of you plan to fail? We don't. We don't plan to fail, right? But we sometimes fail to plan. And 94% of all failures due to not having a system, not having a plan for how you're going to reach your goals. So that's what we do in our clinic. And I'd like to tell you a little bit about how that's worked for some people and tell you about a couple of my patients. Do you guys want to hear that? Mm-hmm. So Lynette came to see me last year. She was in her 50s. She had a lot of different health things going on. She was struggling with memory. She was having a lot of pain issues. She had a lot of problems with heavy periods and irregular bleeding. She couldn't sleep. She was very significantly overweight, very tired, just felt like she was in a fog all the time. She was worried that she might have Alzheimer's or multiple sclerosis or something that she didn't even know about. She had gone to all kinds of doctors. They all told her she was fine. She was missing work. She was embarrassed to go out in public and interact socially because she couldn't think of words and she couldn't have normal conversation with people. She started our program that puts all these pieces of the puzzle together, and right away she told me her cravings went away. She started sleeping through the night, and she said that she didn't even realize how tired she was until she started getting some sleep. Her pain went away. She told me on our first visit that she was going to have carpal tunnel surgery, and I said, why don't you just wait for a few weeks and let's see what happens. Went away completely. She never did have surgery. Other pain that she didn't even tell me about went away, and she hadn't thought it could be possible, so she never mentioned it to me. Her memory improved to the point that she went back to school and got her master's degree. She could dial a 10-digit phone number without having to look back at the number 5 times. And she said, and she lost over 20 pounds in the first 2 months, and now over a year later, she's maintained all those gains in her health. Now here's the really cool part. I worked with Lynette's daughter, Tasha, at the same time. Isn't she cute? Mm-hmm. She was just a delight. And Tasha was only in her 20s, but she told me, I feel like I'm in my 80s. She had had problems from early childhood with severe asthma, multiple infections. She had terrible skin problems and rashes. She had ADHD and depression and anxiety. She was struggling in school. She said she felt lost and hopeless, but she decided that she was done waiting. She was tired of tomorrow being the day. She decided to make the commitment that today was the day to reclaim her health, and she started working with us. She lost weight, and I'll just tell you, our program's not about weight loss, but when you regain your health and things come into balance, weight goes away because it's a symptom of imbalance. She had mental clarity, her mood improved, she learned how to handle stress better, she got accepted into an advanced degree program that she'd been trying to work on. She says, what's so much more than weight loss is being able to feel good again. I feel amazing. So that's just a couple people that I've worked with. I want to give you an illustration of how our program works, how we put together all these pieces of the puzzle, and it's kind of like learning to fly. I, too, am a pilot, and it's one of my passions. That is my dad and I on one of our trips together, obviously before he passed. Who has thought about learning how to fly? Becky, have you ever flown?
My father was a pilot.
Oh.
I taxied down the airport, our country air strip, and wiped out both sides of Grand Canyon.
So anybody want to go flying with him? Becky?
I never made it.
Not quite. We're going to have to learn how first, right? How are we going to learn how to fly? Go to YouTube, watch some videos? Might help. We're going to get an instructor. We're going to have to study a little bit, read some books. What else? Practice. Take a test, make sure we have the knowledge. So we're ready now. We'll go up to the plane and hop in, right? No, we're going to get in with an instructor. That instructor is going to be right there in the right seat with hands on the controls as we learn how to fly this plane. And once you've had enough hours and enough practice, then you can taxi down the runway and not hit any grain bins. Or take off and, more importantly, land again, because the harder part is landing, not taking off. Right? And that's what our program does. It gives you all the tools to become an independent pilot so that you can solo take off and land safely and get to your destination. Now I want to talk a little bit about the plane, which is your health and how you're going to get there. Would you take off with a plane that only had one wing? How about missing the rudder? Or maybe a chip in the propeller, crack? We'd never do that, right? And yet we try to take off with our health where we're missing pieces. We don't have all the right parts and we don't have all the tools necessary to reach our goals. And what our program does is put all those pieces and parts together so that you have a path and a plan to follow. So we're getting close to time to wrap up. I want to ask you, what's the most important thing you've heard tonight?
Make a plan.
Gotta have a plan. Exactly, Kendall. What else? You guys are quiet and shy.
Be proactive.
Absolutely. Absolutely, your name tag's folded.
Oops.
Oh, okay, good, excellent. We've got to be proactive. So a Chinese proverb says, tell me and I may remember, show me, I will remember, but involve me and I will understand. So is knowledge power, guys?
Yes.
Is it? What if you don't do anything with your knowledge? What if you don't apply it? We have to apply our knowledge in order for it to benefit us. So I want to ask, now that you've heard some truth about some of these health issues, are you going to take action and become proactive for your own health and make a change in how you're living? I want to see some hands. If you really feel like you're going to make a difference, Ray is. Yeah, absolutely. Cindy, Timothy, wonderful. Now, that's what I hope to accomplish tonight. And so I feel like I've accomplished that. Some of you, however, you didn't raise your hand.
That cat lives at my house, I think.
Is that your cat? Some of us are stuck on the couch and we haven't put down the remote yet. What's keeping us there? We call it procrastination, right? Mm-hmm. But what's really behind procrastination? Sometimes we call it laziness, but more often it's fear, right? What are we afraid of? What keeps us from being able to step out and take action? Afraid we won't make it. Exactly. Afraid we're going to fail. Maybe we've tried before and it didn't work. Have you had all those pieces of the puzzle when you've tried to reach your health goals? Did you have every piece together? So how could you make it? How could you reach your goal? So, let me ask you a very important question. Oops, I gave you the answer. Can you predict the future of your health?
No.
Yes, you can. Now, tell me why you say no, Keener.
Well, things happen and you don't know what they're going to be. You just don't.
Absolutely. So I agree with you. Keener says we can't tell what's going to happen. I'm not a fortune teller. I don't have a crystal ball. And we don't have control over outside events. But did you know that 75% of our health is determined by our own choices and actions, not by our genetics or even our environment? By our own choices and action. And we can predict our health, not the future or what's going to happen to us, but whether our health will be in good condition or not, based on, first of all, looking at the correct tests and interpreting them in the correct manner. We can also make sure that we're determining the underlying cause and not just treating symptoms. We can also make sure that we're focusing on that cause. We can alter lab results with drugs and medications, but it still doesn't correct the reason why they were abnormal to begin with. So we have also got to look at the whole person and how every part of you interacts on your health. And then we're going to look at a systematic approach where we put all these pieces of the puzzle. So that's how we're able to help you achieve and reclaim your life and your health. So did you guys write down a time on your tag when you checked in?
Yeah, we did.
Somebody did.
Yeah, someone did. How much time has gone by since you checked in? Take a look at your time. It's now 10 to 7.
1 hour.
An hour and 15 minutes, 20 minutes. Is there any way that you can get that last hour and a half back? Is there any way that you can slow that time down?
No.
All we have is right now. And I'm sure that all of you know this, and you've probably lost people yourself, just like I lost my dad. All we have is right now, and time is precious. So my question to you tonight is, what kind of life do you want to live today? And what kind of life do you want to have tomorrow? And the only way you can affect tomorrow is what you do right now, today, with this moment. So I'm going to wrap up and let you guys enjoy your dinner that Candy and her staff have prepared. I can go home and see my family tonight, or I can stay and share about an opportunity that you can take the next step in reclaiming your health. I'd like to know how many of you would like to hear about that opportunity. Good. What I want to give you tonight, guys, is an opportunity to come in and see me for an evaluation. We call that a wellness evaluation. And it's a chance for you to sit down with me. We're going to sit down knee to knee, take an hour to look at your health concerns. We're going to talk about what's going on in your own health situation and how that's affecting your quality of life. I'm going to help you see whether you're on a path towards wellness or you're just on a disease management path. And we're going to come up with a plan of action based on what's going on and where you want to go. And that plan of action is something that we call a lifestyle program. And that's how we put all these pieces of the puzzle together and help you resolve those concerns and reach your goals. So I want to ask you, how long did you get with your doctor the last time you went in for an appointment? You got to speak up louder.
20 minutes.
20 minutes? That's not too bad.
No, that's disgusting.
Good. 5 minutes? Thank you, Ray. Why do you say that's disgusting?
Because you can't evaluate somebody in 20 minutes. You just can't do it.
Absolutely. You must have been in my shoes before. And you certainly can't evaluate somebody in 5 minutes, right? The average doctor's visit now is 7 minutes. Do you know why that is? Because they have to check in all the boxes to get the insurance to even pay them $5 for the visit. But how much do you think that 20-minute visit cost you? You know? Not talking about your copay, but what did it actually cost you? You had any guesses?
$300.
$300. That's a pretty good guess. That's exactly right, what most visits would cost. And would it be reasonable that I would ask something for spending an hour with you, looking at what your concerns are and figuring out a plan to help you get well? Mm-hmm. I've spent an hour with you tonight. I hope I've given you valuable information. My normal fee for that consultation is $287. I don't want money to be a barrier though. And so if you're ready to schedule a consultation tonight, we would do that for $87.
How much?
87. Oh, sorry, $87. Now, does $87 cover my time? It really doesn't. So why am I even asking you guys to pay $87? What's the purpose? Because I care? Thank you, Kendall. I do. I care very much. But this is the first step that shows me you're serious about taking action for your own health and being proactive. This is kind of like skin in the game. It just helps me know, yeah, I'm serious about this, and I know I'm going to have to take some action to reclaim this health. If you're here with someone that wants to also be seen for their own health concerns, your partner, family member, we will see that second person for $47 if you come in together. So if you both came in, it would be $134. Now, you don't both need a consult. I am going to tell you what I will expect when you come in, but before I do that, I'd like to just show you, if it's okay with you guys, some of my actual patients talking about what has happened to them on this program. Is that okay with you guys? Do you want to see that? Let's see if it's working. I am Dr. Loy Anderson. I'm the owner and founder of Thriving Functional Medicine.
When I started, I was on a lot of medications that I didn't want to be on. Specifically, I had a lot of allergies and acid reflux, trouble swallowing if I didn't have the acid reflux medication on board, depression, all that good stuff.
Well, I had spoken with my general doctor numerous times about some of the things I had concerns about, and I didn't feel like they were addressed.
So, and actually my cognitive thinking was really impaired too. It was hard to keep clear and remember things that I've known for years. I just couldn't pull them up.
A lot of pain, a lot of back pain, foot pain, wrist pain. Literally was looking at making an appointment to have carpal tunnel surgery done, and aches and pains just getting to me, slowing down my lifestyle, slowing down my hobbies.
I am just so glad that we participated in this program. Thriving has been a real blessing to our lives, and I couldn't be more thankful.
My brain feels clearer, I feel more vibrant, I feel more alive, I feel just generally much better. I'm Many of the situations I had seem to be clearing up or have gone. I do not seem to have the body aches and pains that I had. I'm feeling enthusiastic, really enthusiastic and happy about life right now.
Well, my quality of life now, I feel like I'm a lot less moody as far as a roller coaster. I've learned how to eat foods that will keep me more balanced through the day, so that my insulin levels are not going up and down, because I know that my mood's fluctuated with being hungry or not being hungry.
I'm feeling better than I've felt in years. I mean, a number of things that happened that have been remarkable. One is that I realized that I have propped myself up with chemicals, being sugar and caffeine and artificial methods for years. I've found my energy has returned at a very high level, and yet I'm calm in a manner that I don't even remember. I can't even remember being this way in my life. I get up in the same way all day, and I'm clear when I get up in the morning. I'm ready to tackle things. I feel completely different.
Thrive Functional Medicine has changed my life. It's changed both my wife and I are feeling tremendously better.
I think that it's something that is worth more than you think.
So guys, you have an opportunity tonight to decide if you're ready to take action for your health. If you're tired of searching for answers or looking to how to do it on your own, you're going to get some paperwork in just a couple minutes, and when you're ready to schedule that consult, come out to the table where you registered, and my staff have schedules for us, and it's first come, first serve. I do take a limited number of patients, be able to spend the time that it takes to really figure out what's going on. And so if you're ready, and now's the time, take action. So there's just a couple of rules if you're going to come in. When you come in, number one, you're going to get some paperwork tonight, and I want you to fill that out before you come. It's going to take you maybe 30 to 45 minutes. It's going to ask you some questions you should have been asked a long time ago, and it's not a standard medical history. It's some things like, where do you want to be in 5 years? Where are you going to be if you don't take any action? It takes a little time to think about. These can be hard questions. Do that before you come in so that we have the full hour together to talk about what's going on with you. That's the first one. Secondly, there's a couple of small assessments we do in the office for me to get a complete picture of where you're starting, so get there just a few minutes early. And then finally, I want you to bring your spouse with you. Now, why would that be? Bring your spouse or your partner.
They know you too well.
Oh, I love that, Timothy, because they're going to tell on you. Really, it's because I feel like when you make a decision, like committing to changing your lifestyle, that both people need to be involved in that decision, and I want them to know me, and hopefully you're all here tonight, but if you're here without your partner. Now, if you're not married, you don't have to go out and get married. It's okay. But if you do have a partner, we want you to know. We know that after about 24 hours, we only remember 7% of what we heard. And it's just too much information to go home and talk it over. We don't want you to have to say, well, I'm going to go home and talk it over, and then I'll let you know. We would just want you to be there and hear it together. Is that fair? And finally, I think that's it. That's the only rules. So the most common questions that I get are, will my insurance pay for this? What's the answer to that question? No, and it's not that I don't take insurance, it's insurance doesn't take me. They're not going to pay for what it's going to take for you to get well. The next question is, how long is this program going to be? Well, that depends on where you need to go. So if we're starting in Great Falls and going to Fort Benton, that's a fairly short trip. But if we're starting in Great Falls and going to Los Angeles, it's a lot longer. So I'll determine that when we meet. I'll let you know that exactly so you know what we're going to be doing when you come in for your consultation. And then a lot of people want to know, can I afford this? Well, I want to ask you a different question. Can you afford not to take care of your health? Now, it has to fit in your budget. We have some different payment options and financing options that we'll go over with you. But I've worked with students like Tasha. I've worked with retirees. I've worked with single parents. I've worked with people on fixed incomes. And if it's important for you to get healthy, we'll find a way to make it work in your budget. if it's not important, there's always going to be an excuse. So I will take some private questions out here at the table for just a few minutes, and then you guys are going to get your dinner. I hope you enjoy it very much. And my staff is going to pass out some paperwork. One of them is an evaluation, and on that evaluation form, it asks if you'd like to refer anyone. Don't do that. We've found that people don't like to be called, and we don't like to intrude on people's privacy. If you thought of someone tonight that you think would like to hear this information, could benefit, we have some invitations for our next talk. Grab one on your way out, hand them the information, and ask them to call us. That's the best way to share this hope with other people. But if you have any other feedback for me on the presentation tonight or the dinner, please go ahead and share that with me. And then there'll be an enrollment form when you're ready to schedule your consult. Just come on up front. And other than that, I hope you guys have enjoyed your evening and enjoy your dinner very much.
Thank you very much.